I'm Gemma. I'm the founder of LUMI Consultancy, and I've spent about the past 10 years working in health and beauty as a senior buyer. I've got some of my old colleagues in the audience. Give us a little whoop. Yeah, okay, probably about half of the audience. So I set up LUMI Consultancy in January this year, and really we exist to work with indie beauty brands. So whether you're a startup brand that really wants to develop your route to market strategy, or if you're an existing brand that wants to work on increasing your distribution with your retailers, come and speak to us and we can help you out. So I guess that kind of leads on to why indie beauty. So there's a real revolution at the moment going on in the beauty industry, and everybody is interested in indie brands. There's kind of like two main drivers with that. The first is customer demand. So they're consumers are a bit bored of the same old brands from the same old suppliers. They want something differentiated. They want like that personalised dialogue. So instead of getting a mascara brand from wherever it might be, they kind of want a lip gloss brand that Flo from Essex has created in a mum-dad shed, or they want a skincare brand that Charlotte from Dalston has created for a specific reason. They kind of want that connection. And we all know about Glossier. I think that's the biggest example of a brand that really connects with its consumers. So that's kind of like the first reason. I think the second reason is accessibility. So for so many years, massive conglomerates have really dominated the beauty industry, and that's all because of money. A lot of things are because of money. So they've had massive ad spends, but the days of those ad spends are over really because of the rise of technology. So we know that obviously apps like Instagram, anybody here on Instagram? I spend a lot of my time on Instagram. That's allowed people a free of charge kind of shop window really, that opportunity to speak to their consumers one-on-one. So it's really reduced a lot of the barriers to market entry. So if you want to set up your own brand, there's not really a lot stopping you anymore. And we've got some great examples of that this evening as well. So basically, even my own business, so LUMI, I've been established for 84 months. I've only got about 1,000 followers on Instagram. But actually, Instagram probably generates about 60% of my business at the moment. So it's a really phenomenal tool and a really low-cost way of actually starting up a brand and connecting with the consumer. So I guess the rise of indie brands is why we're here, and it's why a lot of you guys are here in the audience. So we're here to celebrate all things indie, and we've got 3 inspiring female founders. So if you'd like to welcome them to the stage, we've got Nicole, Elsie and Dominika. Kind of essential use. Barman's very friendly, he'll get you one. So over the next hour or so we're going to explore 3 key topics. So the first is branding, how to set up a brand, how to connect with your consumers. We're then going to explore a little bit around beauty trends at the moment. And then we're going to go into entrepreneurship and the different kind of exciting things and the challenges that you might face as a business entrepreneur. So, over to you guys. If you want to introduce yourself, should we start with Nicole?
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me? Just checking that mic is working. So thanks Gemma. I'm Nicole and I've basically been running my business, Chelsea Creative Studio, for nearly 3 years. I was working in various industries for really like real estate, charities, and then I ended up in telecom somehow in my first job here in London after moving from Sydney, Australia. And I just really didn't like it, didn't kind of resonate with me, but I kind of just stuck in there. I think it was one of those things where I was like, I need to pay rent. The team was nice, it was in Soho, cool location. So everything kind of ticked some boxes other than I didn't actually enjoy the work. So I basically left that job, went to a contract role in Sydney just to get some warm weather for 5 months.
Nice.
Yeah. And when I was there and kind of coming to the end of my contract, a girl started at this business, and she had been freelancing herself. And I was just so intrigued. I was like, hang on, so you've been working from home and being paid, like how? And so I kind of said, look, if I buy you a coffee, I think we have like a mutual love of Beyonce and a few other things. So I was like, look, we have stuff in common, talk to me. And she basically was like, okay, this is how I got started, blah, blah, blah. So when I finally moved back to London, I basically took a few steps, obviously got a website sorted, put my new business out on LinkedIn and a few other things, just told friends. And it's kind of grown from there. And then I actually had started my business as Nicole Ramson, just under my name. And then I wanted to change it into a business, that was kind of a separate entity to myself, keeping personal. And so I chose Chelsea Creative because I live in Chelsea. And it's something I kind of, the name I wanted to take with me for years, I started an Instagram account and started putting my work up there, not really knowing what would come from it, but I just thought, make sure the aesthetic's nice and kind of, practice what I preach and everything that I tell my clients. As you said, that's now probably 80% of my business is all through Instagram. So it's, been a huge, amazing tool. So that's basically about me.
Perfect, thank you guys. And over to Elsie and Dom.
Who wants to take it? Me.
Does this work? Cool, so I'm Elsie and this is Dominika, and we are co-founders of BYBI Beauty and Clean Beauty Co. So our journey started sort of 5 years ago now. We both met while we were working together in advertising actually. So we were in ad sales, selling video ads, the really annoying, non-skippable ones that come with the content that you want to watch.
You're all welcome.
So we both joined the same company at the same time and just hit it off instantly. And one kind of mutual passion that we had and kind of shared interest was of the kind of growing wellness scene that was sort of hitting the UK at the time. So really being spearheaded by influencers like Ella and the Hamsies and Madeline Shaw and all of those guys. And I think we found it really interesting both from a health point of view. We were kind of dip in and out of veganism when it suited us. But also just kind of watching these influencers, it was really the kind of rise of them at the time. We hadn't really seen anything like it, and actually a lot of them were coming from backgrounds that weren't entirely relevant to what they were talking about, and then they were suddenly kind of overnight stars, and it was actually a really interesting kind of piece of advertising and marketing. So we were kind of getting into all of that, and on the kind of flip side, obviously massive beauty junkies, always have been. And I think we kind of identified that natural beauty was probably where that movement was moving. And the UK hadn't quite got it yet, but markets like the US and Australia definitely had. So we kind of dived into that, started doing some research into sort of reading beauty labels, understanding what was going into our beauty products, and sort of wound up at thinking, could we make our own beauty products in the same way that these kind of bloggers were making their own sweet potato brownies? Could we jump in the kitchen and throw together an avocado face mask? And the answer was yes. So we spent quite a lot of time doing that, and we documented our journey on Clean Beauty Co, which is our kind of blog. And we kind of started to grow that while we were still working. So we were doing events. We've since published a book, which Penguin published last year, kind of sharing tips and recipes and advice and that kind of thing. So that's Clean Beauty Co. So we kind of have this influencer platform. Do you want to take BYBI?
Sure. So we obviously gave ourselves a really hard job of not just founding one company, but also two. So that's typically the style of Elsie and I, make things really hard for ourselves. But I guess we had spent a long time looking at the natural beauty market, and as Elsie said, we were massive beauty junkies, so we really enjoyed not only using beauty products, but the experience of going and buying them. And when we switched to natural, there was a bit of a void. We were going to Whole Foods and we were kind of tapping on our face creams and our bar salts at the end of our food shop. But actually what we missed was that real consumer experience, and I guess the marketing experience that we were receiving. And you touched on a kind of negative side to that, but there's also a massive positive side of the community and the kind of accessibility of mainstream beauty brands. So I guess BYBI really stemmed from this lack of our own kind of need for cool beauty products, but also ones that were ethically sound, that had really good formulations. Because our switch from natural was also a switch away from mainstream beauty products that are heavily fragranced, that are filled with synthetic fillers, that don't have a lot of substance to them. So we really wanted to maintain the ethics that we really believed in, that we were already using from natural skincare, but make them innovative, make them fun, make them cool, and make them mainstream, which, you know, to this day we still haven't really seen a lot of natural skincare brands do that. So we started to launch BYBI kind of at the start of last year when we quit our full-time jobs, and it came to formal fruition last August. So we're still really young, we're less than a year old. Most of our marketing is done still through social and a community that we've harnessed both, you know, through BYBI but also Clean Beauty Co. And we really use those two brands to kind of coexist nicely, moving people through content into product as well. And we're stocked, you know, quite widely now, which I think is a real testament to where the market is moving, both from an indie perspective, but also a natural perspective, a vegan perspective. So we're, you know, stocked in places like House of Roses, Nicole's, we're on ASOS, Beauty Bay. And we've got a really strong wholesale strategy that we're kind of expanding at the moment as well.
Amazing. And I think there's such a connection, like a holistic beauty in terms of being food, well-being, beauty. I think you kind of touch on both of those areas. So we're going to move a little bit into branding now. So there's a great quote from Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of Amazon. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. And it's, a brand's what people say about you when you're not in the room. So I think before we work out how we communicate with your ideal customer, it's really about figuring out who that customer is. So Nicole's just going to give us some insight into how you work with your clients in kind of defining who their ideal customer is.
Yeah, okay, so basically I normally have clients that contact me because they see me on Instagram, quite like my work, and they contact me and say, I need a logo. And I'm like, well, what for? Like, I need a bit more than that. But I'm quite lucky in the fact that when people contact me, they have to go onto my website, and if they subscribe to my newsletter, automatically they get a freebie, which is like a branding 101 workbook. So normally they've already got that before they've contacted me. So I normally get them to fill out a couple of forms. So obviously you look at like kind of bog standard demographics, and then you obviously look a little bit deeper into like how they feel, how you want to make them feel. At the end of the day, it's great to have a brand, but you've got to make your customer the hero. So you're really trying to find something that's going to work for that target market. But just getting as much information as possible from them is quite handy. I'm sure I heard you guys before talking about what you did some market research. So I think it's quite important to kind of have that.
And I think one of the things that I've learned working with different brands as well is when brands come to me and they're not sure about who they want their target customers to be, asking them to visualise like, you know, which celebrity would it be or where would they shop, and trying to just build up a profile of their lifestyle and where they're kind of likely to be and everything.
Yeah, my little branding personality workbook, I literally I'm trying to do it's hard sometimes when you give people a lot of like, you know, can you fill this out for me, and it's a Word document, it's quite boring, so I've tried to do it in a way that's fun. So I'm like, if your brand that you want to create is a cocktail, what cocktail would it be? What TV show does it watch? You know, it's just those little things that sometimes you need to kind of think about. It's just getting outside the box and like really nutting down what that is.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so once we know who we want to talk to, I guess it's then on to understanding what your USP is. So that means unique selling point. So it's about what will make you stand out versus your competitors, what will make you better than them. So how did you guys work on your USP when it came to defining BYBI, and has that evolved as the brand grew?
So I guess our USPs are very much around ethics. So I guess we're wholly committed to both the formulation of natural ingredients and using them first and foremost, but also around using vegan ingredients, maintaining cruelty-free status, and just generally being mindful of things like sustainability, packaging, sourcing, making sure that we're not kind of damaging the environment that's taking such good care of us. So all of those ethics are very much the sound of the brand and the basis of what we do. But I guess we don't always run with them first. I think first is definitely about the products and the efficacy and the performance of the products, and then we tend to convert people at a later stage using those USPs as well.
Okay, awesome. So when I used to be a senior buyer, I had a lot of brands that would come in and present to me, and they would say, this is who our customer is, this is who we want to be, this is what we want to stand for. But actually, when I went onto Instagram or when I looked through their presentation deck, their words didn't really match up with what I was seeing. So as a designer, do you get that a lot, and how do you kind of help your clients be consistent?
Yeah, consistency is one of the biggest things that I try and drum into people. Yeah, so obviously once you found that target market, you kind of, everything needs to align with your mission and those values. And so people come to me for the design aspect, but it kind of pushes through so much more than that. Like I always say to people, I can like design you the nicest logo, and like all your branding can look consistent. I can set you up on Canva for social templates and literally say like, this is what you need to do. But if your customer's giving you a call and you're rude or whatever on the phone, it didn't matter what I did. Like that's the experience that they've had. So I think it's making sure that every single touch point in this, what I call branding ecosystem, and the ecosystem like consists of business cards, website, packaging, even down to like what standard email that you're going to send out when someone subscribes to your newsletter. Like everything should be completely consistent, and that tone of voice is so important. So I think one of the biggest things that I say to people is like, yeah, okay, hire a designer to make it look nice. You also need to hire someone that's going to get that content like looking so sharp and really, really like on brand. And it's quite an easy way then to then put content out onto your like social channels. So if someone's done 5 pages worth of website content for you and written it in this like amazing beautiful way that is just so on brand, you can actually like, it just makes your life easier, or whoever's running your social channels, to go onto your website or this document that you've got and kind of take pieces out from that, so your website is consistent to your social, to anything else you're putting out there. So I think it's important to just make sure that, I think we even discussed last week about customer service and how is it Glossier that's like...
Yeah, so Glossier have this thing called a G Squad, and they say that their most important function in the whole business, it isn't sales, it isn't social media, it's actually customer service, because they know that actually when consumers are using that method of communication, it might be because they've had a bad experience. And it's really about retaining them and speaking to them in that consistent tone of voice, and also meeting their expectations. I think a lot of the thing about branding and why you need to be consistent about all the different touch points is because you set up a certain vision in people's mind about what their expectations are from the brand. And I think it's really important that at every single point you are consistent, so they know what to expect from you. I think that's it, really, isn't it? Cool. Okay, so we touched on branding. I think we're going to go into some things around beauty trends now. So I don't think we could run a beauty trend discussion in 2018 without talking about the rise of vegan beauty. Anyone heard about how popular it is? So I don't know if anyone saw, but a couple of weeks ago Superdrug opened a vegan pop-up shop in Box Park. Anyone been there? Yeah? What do you think?
It's good, I like it. Some of I've seen them in the shop, but you just wouldn't know. You just pass them. So I think it brings like attention to the brand. Sometimes you're like, oh, I could use my beauty card for that and that and that. So.
Yeah, amazing. I still need to pop down there, it looks great. So I read a report a couple of weeks ago, so there's a data house called MPD Data, and they said that vegan beauty is growing at about plus 40% year on year, which just for context is about 5 times faster than the general beauty market. So I think it's a real growing trend and something that people are really, really interested in. You guys can probably give us some good insight into this. What do you think, why are consumers so interested in vegan at the moment?
I think it's like stemming from food.
Yeah.
I think like we touched on earlier kind of how our journey started, like a lot of this ends up filtering into beauty, and it will often start with people kind of discovering it in the food context, or kind of like food and general wellness. And I think you can't avoid veganism in food these days, like mainly to do with the kind of influences that we were talking about earlier. But I mean it feels, and certainly in London I think probably more so than the rest of the country, but it definitely feels like it's becoming mainstream. You've got restaurants popping up now that you wouldn't know that they were vegan. And like one of our favourites, you must go, the vegan. It's called By Chloe. So good!
So Instagrammable.
Oh my god, so Instagrammable. Also, the meatballs are just amazing, or meatballs. So yeah, it's come from food definitely, and I think also from kind of food coupled with social media giving us this just huge platform of knowledge into things like animal welfare. You kind of can't avoid it on Facebook now. Like I think, you know, I can't scroll through my feed now without seeing a horrendous like animal video or something along those lines. So I think like kind of the awareness piece is just so much bigger now. And I think for us as a vegan beauty brand, I was actually speaking to somebody about this earlier, but we got asked if we thought about being certified organic rather than certified vegan. And in all honesty, kind of a year ago or so, 18 months ago when we were kind of fleshing out the brand, you know, I think veganism maybe wasn't as on our radar as much, and we probably would have gone down a certified organic route. But when we launched, the amount of people that we get asking us on a daily basis, are you vegan, are you cruelty-free, was just insane. Nobody was asking us really, are you organic? So we could see that from a consumer point of view, it's very on people's radars, and so that for us meant, okay, well it's important to our consumers, so we will become certified. So we're now certified vegan with Vegan Society, and certified cruelty-free as well.
Do you think there's kind of that association where consumers perceive it as being better for the skin?
Yeah, I think so, and like maybe slightly controversial, but it's not actually that hard to be vegan and beauty.
Yeah.
And there are probably a number of brands that are missing a trick because they probably are vegan and they're just not shouting about it, to be honest, to be completely honest. So the changes that we've made in our products to kind of make us vegan are mainly around beeswax.
Yeah.
So very hard to find a vegan balm, and because of our consumers asking us if we were vegan, we knew that Babe Balm had to be vegan, so we like sort out a fruit wax rather than a beeswax. And then obviously things like honey, obviously there's quite a lot of kind of dairy and some kind of like products as well, but on the whole it's actually not that difficult. So I think that there's definitely a perception around it kind of being better for your skin, but you're probably using a lot of vegan products and just not knowing it.
I think it's more of an issue in colour, where a lot of animal derivatives are used to colour cosmetics, which is a bit gross in fairness. I also think that the rise of vegan beauty is kind of correlated to eating in a way that going vegan is quite hard, it's quite a commitment and it's quite challenging. And I think a lot of people want to make that commitment and want to show that their support for animal welfare, but maybe don't want to go vegan with their food. So it's almost that secondary, like I'm making a commitment elsewhere in my life, because I think that there's a high proportion of people buying vegan skincare that are vegans. So there must be something in the mix there.
For sure, and I think it's coupled with cruelty-free. Like you always see vegan and cruelty-free.
Yeah.
So I think the like trend is more around people like being scared off by these videos on Facebook, basically, and it's driven way more around animal welfare than people thinking that it's going to do anything better to your skin.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess just from a kind of clean beauty care perspective, you get insight into what a lot of new brands are doing. What are going to be the big trends for the rest of the year? What are people interested in? We've had like face masks, sheet masks, acids, fruits and everything.
So I think a couple of things. I think like the 10 step is out for 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Like everyone was like,
Yeah.
everyone was like triple cleansing, like double misting, and then everyone's like, God, I don't have the time or money for this anymore. So I'm out. I think body care is something that we're seeing a huge rise in. So like I think people starting to kind of make the connection that there's so much more skin on your body than this. Your face is like this much, and then your body is the rest of it. And we don't look after it in the same way that we do our face, and that's nuts, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So like I think we'll see a lot of very good skincare brands starting to delve into body. Even like on the makeup side as well. Like Rihanna's just launched her like. I've seen all of the bloggers like shimmering around. Yeah, so like even colour, like kind of moving that way as well, which is really exciting. So that's I think body would be big.
Yeah, I agree. And also just again from a kind of social movement perspective, there's that whole trend around body positivity and no photo shopping and everything.
Yeah,
so I think products will probably play a big part in that as well.
Yeah.
And I guess from a kind of makeup perspective, we've seen a big shift from the heavily Instagram contour look into the more minimalist kind of multi-functional products, a lot of fingertip application and everything. Do you kind of see a change, Nicole, in the kind of client briefs that you're getting in?
Yeah, like I'm not sure if I mentioned, but a fair few of my clients are kind of permanent makeup, semi-permanent makeup artists, and that's obviously been on the rise massively over the last few years. I think there's now like 50,000 hits on Google, like searching, and I think again it comes from education. I think people are realizing it's actually not as scary, to have someone tattoo your face. Like it's a lot. It's more of a a done thing now, and I think people are seeing those before and afters and going, okay, it's actually not that scary. And it is that time consuming. People are time poor, so they want to spend their money on something that's obviously going to like make them wake up and naturally be like, I've seen gloss and go lips where your lips are constantly like glossed.
Oh my god. Sounds amazing.
I don't know, it's not my thing. But like the brows, like big gorgeous bushy brows that trying to wipe away the 90s by then making them just so much more like full and beautiful. So yeah, I do think people are coming to me, especially these women who are onto some like a really good trick, these permanent makeup artists, because they're charging between £350-400 for one hour session to have this done, and the demand is so high for it. But they are then in turn obviously wanting to have branding that looks decent, because you're not gonna drop £400 on someone who looks a bit dodgy or let someone touch your face, as I say. There is, and so I think that's where the branding side of things, they need to look really, really consistent and look gorgeous and trustworthy. But yeah, a lot of the things that I'm doing are obviously it comes with the style of what I do, but it is that kind of, whether it's the millennial pinks and the nudes and the greys, but it's nothing too harsh. I think I've had one makeup artist in the last month ask for red, and I was like, what? Red? And
blush.
I know. I don't have that colour, sorry. No, but yeah, normally everyone kind of knows which way they want to go, and it is that natural look, but it's obviously working, and people are really, really resonating with that. And it's girly and it's cute. Although I do think one of the trends that I've seen recently is kind of the co-ed colours are coming in, and the making I think it's The Ordinary that have, come out with this range of products that is letting the product talk more than, not so much the branding, but just keeping everything really simple. So I think kind of gone are the days of some crazy logo that you can't really see what it is. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Apparently yellow is the new millennial pink though, just
FYI,
Well, was actually Zara for quite a long time yesterday, and most of their collection was yellow, so you're right on that one. Okay, so kind of moving on to a little bit of the business side of things. So obviously you guys have all successfully set up your own businesses. What would you say have been the biggest challenges that you've had to face, and how have you overcome them?
All the time, every day.
So many. No, I think it's quite a wild ride, that's for sure. I think that we came from advertising backgrounds. I mean, we had no experience of running a business, from the most mundane things to how to set up payroll, how to do accounting, how to balance your books, I think we've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, which very much comes from our sales backgrounds. So we've always relished the idea of owning something, generating money. We're very not in a kind of materialistic way, but we are very commercially driven. So the idea, that whole side of the business is still very exciting for us. But there is a lot of mundane elements to running a business, particularly on the admin side of things and just the legal side of things. So
it's amazing how you would then become an expert in law, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sink or swim in that way. I don't really challenges. There's always a challenge. So it's more about taking a challenge, conquering it, learning from it, and making sure you don't make the same mistake twice. You'll always make mistakes, and there's always learning curves. But I don't necessarily think that you should approach any challenge negatively, because there's always going to be them, and if you can't cope, you have to learn to do
Not just hurdles, yeah.
And I think like the problems almost earlier on were harder to deal with than the problems that we face now. I think some of the things that happened in the early days were so catastrophic to us. We were devastated, and then we'd pick up and move on. And if those same, I would die for some of those same problems now because they seem so minuscule in comparison to the feats that we're trying to achieve at the moment. So it's all about perspective as well. But I think the more you kind of get through these challenges, the more resilient you become, and the more that they are put into perspective. But there's been so many things I can't isolate as certain.
No, our challenges have grown as the business has grown, and I think like our challenges, when it's just you at the beginning and you're literally doing everything, your challenges will generally be like relying on DPD to like pick something up when they said they would and then they didn't, and it's an absolute disaster and you literally feel like the world has ended. And now our challenges, now that we're a bit bigger and we have a team, are around HR and oh my god, how do we manage 6 people? Like, what? We've not done this before. Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, how do we become a good leader? Like, I don't know. What to know? So, like, your challenges kind of develop as your business does, but you kind of don't realise that it's happening when it does. And yeah, as Dom says, like, now I die for, or I'd like love for the problem, or the only problem to be DPD. But you, like, it's exciting and it's what keeps you motivated and it's what keeps you going, and you learn so much more from these challenges than you ever would like sat at a desk working for somebody else. So it's exciting.
And did you have a business mentor or anything?
Yeah, we've had a few, haven't we? Like basically people who can kind of help us with the areas of the business, i.e. most of them, that we don't know much about. So we've had like a logistics kind of mentor, definitely like branding, marketing, kind of creative side of things. Finance, definitely, like we've needed a couple of those. So we kind of like collect people as we go. Like when we meet people, always say yes to the coffee or like the intro, like always, because you never ever know who we've met some of our investors that way. Like, and you think like this like random person's like asking like, do you want to go for a coffee? And you're like, no. But then when you meet them and they introduce you to someone else and someone else and someone else, and then they end up being your mentor or whatever. So yeah, sorry, that didn't really.
A lot of these things happen quite naturally. Like I think I've met so many entrepreneurs that are like, oh, but have you found your mentor yet? And it's like, just calm down. Like, you can't, things, just let relationships blossom naturally. Don't go out and seek someone and, prompt them with the question, like, please mentor me. Like, I think you want people to be excited and invest in your brand, and they will naturally give you advice and coach you and offer their support. You don't have to necessarily go out and seek it in that way.
Yeah, I agree. It's the importance of networking, eh? How about you, Nicole?
I think maybe struggling to not take things personally. I'm not going to always kind of fit the mark, and I'm a solo, business. So if something doesn't go right, I used to take it so personally. Or if someone was like, "Oh, I don't like this," and I'd be like, "Why?" But now I'm like, "Okay, fair." You're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. So I think kind of realizing that you've got to get your niche. You don't have to I don't have to design for everyone. I don't want to design for everyone. And I think over the last 2.5 years, I've slowly realized that. And obviously everything is an evolution. Like your whole business, you're going to tweak things as you go. There's no rule book for anything. And obviously having a massive support network around you is so important. So someone that you can come home to and just be like, oh my god, this has happened, and just that support's really important. And the other thing is outsourcing. I have a few people obviously do certain things to me that I just don't enjoy doing, which then frees me up to do the things that I love. And that's been really, really helpful. But you can get VAs, and it doesn't even have to be that costly. I've got a girl working for me at the moment, and she's at university, but she's a really smart girl. And she's studying marketing and branding, and sometimes I'm like, cool, so you know more than me, great. But she's amazing, and I pay her a certain amount each month, and she just takes things off my hands that it's amazing. So instead of stressing about things every week that you don't enjoy, having someone else to do that so that you can focus on other things is something that I've found to be really, really
I think
helpful.
Also having that person there to bounce ideas off.
Absolutely.
As well, and sense check things. And if you had to kind of give your best piece of advice, have you got any statement or
No, it's fine. I think actually kind of on your point, like don't be afraid to kind of like pivot and constantly evolve and constantly change and constantly develop and get better. Like I know that at the beginning you want everything to be absolutely perfect, but it won't be. And I would almost say get on with things, do things, get something launched, like get stuff out there, start the Instagram page at the very least. And don't be afraid to think that 6 months down the line the business might look, feel, be completely different to how you'd envisaged it. Like honestly, our early iterations of what our product line looked like are like cringe-worthy now. Like I can't even can't believe. I'm sure you can find them somewhere still on the internet. Like no, it just so like not where the brand. But equally back then, I could never have foreseen that BYBI would look and feel and be the way it is now. So, but that has been a whole process of constantly changing and constantly being like, okay, that didn't work. Like move on, get on with it, change, like develop and evolve and kind of learn. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, stop procrastinating.
Just do it.
Basically, yeah.
I know, I do meet so many people that are like, I'm thinking of going out on my own, and I get like, this is why I do what I do. It's like my mission and values, is because I get so excited about women that are like, I'm thinking of, I'm like, just do it. Like, get it started. Have you got your handles? You haven't got your handles? Like, everyone's like, do your domain. Like, you just, it's getting all that stuff locked down, and then everything does slowly follow suit. You don't have to have everything completely set out. The only other thing I would say, get on Xero. I don't know what you guys use accounting-wise, but Xero is like a live user. I'm sure Xero's just changed my life. Sort out finances like upfront, because that's something that I am shocking with. Like love chasing up invoices and things like that, but when it comes to the nitty gritty and like this month tax time, it's awful. So kind of get that in check. Make sure you know you're doing the right thing there.
That can quite quickly spiral out of control as well. So I'd say that is probably one thing to just try and get in good habits early.
So has anyone got any questions?
I was just wondering how long it took you from when you kind of came up with the idea to like production and getting your products out. How long did that process take?
There were kind of different stages of it, but the actual like manufacturing process of the line that you see today, from like concept through to like product on the table, about 9 months. Everybody said to us, it's going to take you 9 months, and we were like, no, it's not. We're going to have it launched in like 3 months or whatever, and it actually does take quite a long time. But that's from like formulating like right through to it arriving with you. And then things like the branding doesn't take as long as that at all. That's really the kind of like manufacturing process.
And how many products did you have on your line when you first started? Did you have like 3, 5?
So we launched with one, BYBI, which is our multi-purpose product. So it was by far the best product to launch with because it kind of does everything. And then we followed suit with a product that I'm not quite sure why we did it really, because it's a bit of an odd one. It's a really good product. It's quite a strong, we'll tell you about that. It's got quite a long narrative around it, so it was quite interesting. Looking back again, we just did things, and then looking back, it's like, that was interesting. So then we launched with 2, and then about 2 months later we launched another 3, and then just in January we launched our final 2. So we have 7 products now. And actually, we were really focused on MPD for a moment, and we've got definitely new things in the line, but actually what we're focused on is tweaking stuff at the moment, which is quite exciting for us in a way, because we're coming to the end of our first order basically, and it's time to reorder. And it's actually, we've learned so much about the products. They've been out in the wild for 6 months now, and we've had so much feedback, and even feedback ourselves using them. And the great thing about being an independent small brand is that we can suddenly just manually tweak things, and we can change the packaging, which we're doing in a small way and iterating things to make things better. things that we've learned. So that's actually the next phase of our brand is more about relaunching products that we know are great, but could.
Yeah, and I suppose it's about listening to your customers as well. It's really
Yeah,
nice
and
to
we can
actually
literally-
listen to them and say, look, we know you didn't like this bit or whatever it was, and you're saying, look, we've done this for you guys, so it makes them more loyal to you.
I mean, how amazing is that? Like,
Yeah,
you have a product that you love, but you wish it kind of smelled like a little bit sweeter, and then 6 months later you buy it and they've actually listened to you. I mean, I think that's just the rare beauty of being an independent brand, and I hope it's an essence that we never lose. And I think again, Glossier and some of the bigger brands in the US, they have harnessed scale but still maintaining that direct consumer conversation, and it's definitely something that we want to maintain and is one of our core pillars. So
I think that becomes a challenge though, doesn't it? Like how you get to that tipping point of being as big as Glossier but still having that really personal conversation with them. Talking about it with my friends earlier, but I think they've done a great job and they still continue to do that.
Just in terms of formulation, did you guys from the beginning decide that you were going to work with a cosmetologist, or did you have background in MPD, or kind of how does that process work? Because I'm just thinking, if one day in the future I wanted to start up my own brand, I have background in sales, I have background in marketing and product development, but not with anything to do with cosmetics. So how do you kind of find that process of the right people to work with and the right people to talk to?
Well, our journey was interesting because of Clean Beauty Co. Being a DIY beauty blog. So we were talking about formulation at a very, very basic level, but from the beginning. And we were putting that kind of content out there quite early on. And so that involved like a huge amount of research for us to kind of like start to understand formulation, which has meant that how that's kind of filtered into BYBI is that we're actually still very, very close to the formulations, but I don't think that that's very normal in beauty as the founders. We then wrote a book, and at that point we decided that it would be better if we were trained formulators, because people would be like, why am I going to read your book? Like, what are you going to teach me? You don't know anything. So we then studied, so we both got diplomas.
So was that something that you guys did alongside your kind of full-time jobs?
Yeah.
And how did you kind of go about that process? Is that something that you did kind of nights or online?
AKA where?
It's online. Formula Botanica. So they're natural. They're an online Formula Botanica. So they're great. They're probably the biggest. They're actually global. They're quite massive, but they're probably like the biggest like online natural.
And how long did it take you guys to get your diplomas from that?
About a year.
Okay.
Yeah, but you could do it faster. But we were like working and doing the blog and writing a book and doing this.
Wow. So it's definitely doable.
Yeah. It was kind of nuts. But what that's meant is that we find that side of things really interesting, really exciting. And I think because we're a natural brand as well, like there are so many more challenges for us because things like consistency, colour, smell, we can't just like go out and get a synthetic fragrance to fit that purpose. Like we have to find really interesting ingredients, and so I think that level of knowledge is really needed in what we do. But the way that we then work as a product brand, so we still formulate everything in-house, the two of us. So we kind of like come up with the idea, formulate it, test it out, and then pass it on to our manufacturer, who has an in-house chemist who's kind of dedicated to our brand, and she then helps us scale it basically.
Yeah, so I suppose that makes it a lot easier when you do have a kind of in-house chemist working solely on your brand as well.
Yeah.
Sorry if anyone's asking any questions. One more. I've actually got about 15 questions written down. I'll speak to you guys after. If you don't mind me asking, whereabouts are your kind of manufacturers based? Are they UK or where are we talking?
They're UK.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's really important to us.
There's a lot of third-party manufacturers that will help you with that kind of thing without having that knowledge. I guess one of the key barriers that a lot of startup indie brands have is the scale. So a lot of manufacturers are willing to take you on, but they want you to commit to say a minimum of 10,000 units, which obviously for someone that's starting up maybe with a limited capital, or you don't have a kind of reliable sales forecast of how much you're going to sell, that's often your main kind of challenge. So it's about how you do all of your research and have a really clear strategy in place about how much you think you will be able to sell, and to get them on board as well. I think often that's a big pitch, isn't it, as well?
I think jumping back to your question about business advice, actually, I think that lends itself really well. So the relationship we have with our manufacturer is paramount. It actually underpins everything that we do because they bill us big bills, and we have to be very agile with them and be really communicative with them. But often what big contract manufacturers ask you to do is pay for everything up front. We get all of our compliance testing, our compatibility testing done with our manufacturer. They don't charge us for it. They absorb those costs themselves. So we have done a huge piece around building a really good relationship with them, but also making them invested in the long-term future of our brand. So we often talk about where we want to be, how big we want to be, how much money we're going to make them, because at the moment we're a drop in the ocean for them, and they could easily ask us to pay for everything up front. And for a SKU of 7 products, 10,000 minimum order for each product, you're talking about £200,000-300,000. So that's a lot of working capital that will be tied up in product sitting in the stock room as well. So working on payment terms, particularly with a manufacturer, warehouse, and anyone that you start very much early in the production process, packaging, all of those guys, it will make such a big difference. And it's something that we hadn't really thought about, and I think we got quite lucky with.
It's like the hidden cost, isn't it? You think about the unit cost, not all the extra things like the terms.
And even with MOQs, negotiating with them, can we get, we'll produce everything, but can we get a staggered delivery so we don't have to then pay for warehousing for 10,000 units of stock that is going to take us a year to sell, for example. Or just thinking about strategically how you can make those relationships work for you as well.
And that's all about getting people to buy into your dream. That's that relationship hinges on one meeting with their sales director, and we just full on sold him the dream, and that has just got us so far. We're just went all guns blazing with what we want to do, and we were so clear, so crystal clear on that vision
that they wanted it too.
Yeah, that they wanted in, which is nice. Or not. I don't even think he don't even know if they fully believe that we're going to make them massive money. I think they're just go for it, love it, girls.
It's ability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got something that you're really passionate about.
You mentioned that you have investors now, but initially when you started up, what kind of capital were you working from? Was it savings of your own?
So when we decided to quit our full-time jobs, Clean Beauty Co was generating a small amount of revenue from events. We had our book deal, so we had money coming in. So I think we weren't necessarily using the savings to get the business off the ground in that way. What we did was basically have a year's worth of savings to live off. So we committed to not taking any money or not aiming to make the business big enough by that stage to take a salary for both of us. Because obviously there's 2 of us as well, so that every cost is doubled in that way. So that's what we used our savings for. And then through the business we funded initially just kind of through those kind of things I mentioned, events and our book advance. Then we got a Virgin startup loan, which was hugely beneficial for us. It was before any investor would even look at us. We were way too early then. And again, talking about how we pivoted, looking at our Virgin pitch deck and what we thought the business was going to be when we pitched that Virgin loan was just hilarious. But anyway, we got 50k from Virgin. It's a great, definite starting point. It's a loan, so you do have to pay the money back, but you can pay it back through the business. It's got really good terms. It's unsecured. It is a personal loan, but you use it for the business. And it's got quite a good application process as well, which makes you do things like a cash flow forecast and a business plan. So those kind of things can definitely get slipped, to the wayside once you get up and running, when there's more important things to be worrying about, like DVD. But they're good things to have in your toolkit, definitely cash flow forecast. So once we got that, we each got 25k personal loan, business loan, and then about 6 months later we did our first seed equity fundraise. So we raised 150k through private investors that we were introduced through our network, as Elsie kind of talked about, and we're just actually commencing our second raise. Horrible, worst thing ever, because we've been offered quite a big distribution deal that we need to support. So we've decided that we want to raise money against that to support that and make that really successful. So these businesses do need upfront investment. So If you know people that are willing to invest in you, knowing you personally, definitely hit them up for your seed round rather than trying to go to any sort of institution or even angels if you can avoid it, because they will put, they'll take a large chunk of your business. So.
And to support that, there's SEIS and EIS, which is definitely worth looking into if you haven't already. So they're basically tax breaks for the people that invest into your business. So it's a 50% tax break for the first 150k that you get in. So the individuals that give you that money or a proportion of that money can claim 50% of that back through HMRC. So it all makes the investment opportunity very attractive to them. And then EIS is kind of for later stage, and it's a slightly less amount that they can claim back, but it's still quite decent. So if you are speaking to people, it's worth kind of having those conversations and speaking to HMRC to kind of get your business accredited for SEIS, because it suddenly, if somebody's giving you 10 grand and they get 5 grand of it back, it becomes very attractive, and it obviously minimises the risk. So definitely look into that as well.
Great. Okay. I'm just conscious of time, so I think if there's any other questions, we've got about another half an hour for mingling and G&Ts afterwards. So before you start mingling, there's some Instagram handles on the screen. So if you all get your phones out and follow all of them, that'd be amazing. Love a bit of direct feedback. And then, I think if everyone wants to go and grab a drink and get mingling. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.